In November of 2018, news broke that a 26-year-old American named John Allen Chau had been killed on a remote island in the Indian Ocean. He had ventured to the North Sentinel Island, home to the world's most remote people. The Indian government, who oversees the island, has banned all access to it, both for the preservation of the people living there and for the safety of anyone attempting to visit. It quickly became known that Chau was seeking to engage the tribe on the island for the sake of the gospel. Chau had planned for months to travel to the island. He had secured passage on a fishing vessel. He had dodged military patrols and somehow kayaked alone to land on the island. Loaded with gifts for the people and the message of the gospel, Chau hoped to open a door for evangelism. The people on the island had always been hostile to outside intruders, and Chau was met with armed resistance almost immediately. After a few brief visits, he avoided taunts and arrows but refused to give up on his mission. Knowing the risk, Chau set off again for the island alone. He was never seen again. The islanders had killed him for returning. The reaction to Chau's death was heated and diverse. Some called him a martyr. Others called him a deluded idiot. Even the Christian community was divided in the response to his actions and his death. One interesting fact in the whole saga was that John Chau was on this mission by himself. While he had been trained by Mission Agency and was a faithful member of a local church in Vancouver, Washington, neither his church nor his agency knew of or helped facilitate his efforts to approach the North Sentinelese. Chau, it seemed, was a solo missionary with no formal support behind him. This should seem odd to us as we contemplate how missionaries are raised up, sent out, and supported in their work. When we see missionaries in the New Testament, they are commissioned and sent by a particular local church. They are not lone rangers roaming the countryside looking for people to evangelize and disciple. The model that we see in the New Testament and throughout the church history is that missionaries are sent by individual local churches to specific far-flung places. The missionary receives an individual call to go on mission from the Lord, but the church should be there to affirm and encourage this calling. Missions is an intensely personal but also intensely congregational work. Just as a private citizen cannot go and lobby and persuade a foreign government without a commission from the United States, a Christian missionary should not formally go on mission without the authority and support of a local church behind them. We must see the local church being the primary sending force of missionaries. This idea may raise some questions in your mind. What do we do about missionary sending agencies like the International Mission Board or Youth with a Mission or All Nations? What is their role in sending missionaries to the field? How do they specifically interact and work with local churches? We need to see agencies as strategic partners in the work of missions. There can and should be a partnership between like-minded churches for the meeting of practical needs and strategic coordination, oversight, budgeting, and financial support of missionaries. Agencies are optional but permissible means of organized cooperation between individual churches. Yet we must always see that missionaries are commissioned by churches, not agencies. In the book of Acts, it was the local church in Antioch who initially commissioned Paul and Silas to go as missionaries. It was there that their local team returned to recount their journeys and celebrate what God had done. We also see the New Testament churches in Thessalonica, Philippi, and Rome support Paul's ministry and journeys along the way. The churches in Corinth and Macedonia partnered together to raise money for the relief work in Jerusalem. At every turn, these churches were collaborating and cooperating together to support a group of missionaries who had their start in Antioch. Agencies act as stewards of the missionary work on the church's behalf. Don't think that the church is abdicating its responsibilities for the missionary by handing them over to an agency. Like a parent who sends their child to a public or private school outside of the home to be educated, the church is cooperating with others to see that the missionaries are trained, equipped, and supported while not neglecting their duty to care for and watch over the missionary. The church, like that watchful parent, still maintains primary responsibility for their missionaries. Practically, one church alone usually cannot support a full-time missionary, much less a whole corps. That's where the benefit of cooperation and association plays a major role. Thousands of churches of various sizes can support hundreds or thousands of missionaries. But those missionaries must be sent from local churches first. So what should we look for in sending out missionaries? How does a church identify those who they think would be good missionaries? First, let's think about what we should avoid. We know the need for global missions is urgent, but we should not grab hold of the first warm and willing body that we can find. A strong desire to go and serve is not a sufficient reason to promote a missionary. We also need to avoid shoving someone into a role that they're not qualified or competent to undertake. The local church should be a very discerning place for those that they send out on their behalf. Therefore, a church should primarily evaluate the person's character. Are they godly, faithful to serve? Are they trustworthy? Do they exemplify a mature and godly example for others to imitate? Are they a self-starter? A missionary candidate should also already be involved in ministry within the local church. If someone is not serving or invested in the local church now, there's no reason or evidence that they will be invested to serve and lead once they get out into the field. They should also have a solid record of faithfulness in evangelism, discipleship, hospitality, and other ministries. Moreover, they should have a firm grasp of what the gospel and the Bible teaches. They should be able to communicate and teach basic truths clearly and winsomely. Once someone senses an internal call to global missions and the church affirms their calling, the church and its leadership should set out to train and prepare that candidate for the missionary service. The church should give the candidate specific instructions, materials to read, and other training. That can be as informal as personal discipleship groups or sending that person to seminary. The church should provide short-term mission trips to foreign lands and also develop some mission project. As much as possible, the missionary candidate should be taking a lead role in developing and implementing the church's mission strategy long before they are sent to an agency or placed in the field. I hope you're getting a glimpse of the strategic and crucial role that a local church plays in identifying and sending missionaries. Missionaries may receive a personal call to go, but they are not called to go alone. Like we saw last week with the partnerships in 3 John, missions is a team sport. We need some to go and others to send, and the local church is a hub for all mission activity. So let us learn from the courageous yet tragic death of young John Chau. Let's not try and take on the world by ourselves. Let's work within the plans and structures that the Lord gave us. Let's be a church that identifies faithful, mature, and fruitful individuals and launch them into the nations for the glory of God and the good of all peoples.